Small things don't matter, right? Wrong. I've heard this from so many people, including a lot of well-known financial influencers. But what they don't realize is that these small expenses are often what add up to the most and are easiest to cut. To prove my point, I'm going to show you what would happen if you cut just one small expense out of your life. Coffee. I'm the fireman, and I'm trying to reach financial independence before I turn 30 years old. And one of the most important lessons I learned when I first discovered the financial independence retire early or FIRE community is that every purchase you make costs you a little bit of your life. That's because, like the vast majority of people, I make most of my income by selling my time. And that means I can convert a purchase of dollars and cents into a fraction of my life.
And the number of minutes, hours, or years that a purchase costs could actually be a lot more than you think. To see why, we need to calculate your life rate. See, the naive approach would be to assume that your hourly wage is what you get paid for your time. But unfortunately, it's actually a lot lower than that. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the average hourly wage in America is right around $30, which corresponds to a salary of $62,400 a year. I'll use those numbers to prove my point.
First off, we need to talk about taxes. Where I live, that income of $62,400 a year is really just $48,000 a year. So after taking taxes into account, that $30 an hour doesn't look like $30 an hour. It's $23 an hour. But hold on, we're not done yet. And that's because most people have to commute to work. The average American's one-way commute is 27.5 minutes, or 55 minutes each day. That comes out to 238 hours each year. And once you factor that in, that $30 an hour is down to $20.66, barely more than 2/3 the original amount. I'll leave it there, but I'm not even factoring in overtime or the time you spend thinking about work on weekends and evenings, or the intangibles like stress. So plug in your own numbers if you want, but for now, I'm just going to use this $20.66. It's as average of a number as I can make. All right, so now that we've got an estimate for the real value over time, we can determine what a purchase actually costs. Let's start with coffee, one of those purchases that nobody really needs, but a lot of people spend a lot of money on. Now, I'm not familiar with the Starbucks menu, but I looked one up and I saw the blonde vanilla latte for $4.95. Don't forget to add a 5.09% sales tax, at least in my state, and that bumps that purchase up to $5.25.
With a true value of your time of $20.66, that purchase is worth just over 15 minutes of your time. Make that purchase every workday of the year, and that's $1,365, which is worth just over 66 hours of your time. Now, over a 40-year career, that's over a year of work. In other words, by removing this unnecessary beverage from your expenses, you could effectively have 8 extra vacation days every year. Find more expenses to cut, and that can make a huge difference on how many years you have to work. Of course, most jobs don't let you take an arbitrary number of vacation days just because you reduced your expenses. But that's okay, because there's actually something better you can do with that money.
Instead of taking that time off, you can work those hours and put that money towards financial independence. By saving that 66 hours of work that was going towards coffee, you're effectively giving yourself a pay raise. You have 66 hours of more income that you can put towards reaching financial independence. Those 66 hours of income are great, but what that money can do for you is even better. See, that 66 hours is $1,365, and that can be invested. With a 7% inflation-adjusted return, that $1,365 is just over $22,000 in 40 years. And what if you kept up your habit of not buying coffee for all 40 of those years? Well, at the end, you'd be just shy of $300,000. We're not talking about 8 days of time anymore. We're talking about 14,520 hours of work, which is almost exactly 7 years of income. So by cutting out that routine coffee purchase, you'd have 7 years of full salary back, again using the assumptions I stated earlier. Assuming a 4% withdrawal rate, that $300,000 would enable you to spend $12,000 every year in retirement. That's over half of my annual expenses just from cutting out coffee. And hey, we're not even done yet. See, cutting coffee doesn't just mean you have more money. It also means that you spend less. And spending less means you need less to retire.
Again, using the 4% rule, you'd want $35,000 invested just to support this morning expense. So that means not only would you have an extra $300,000 at the end of 40 years, you'd also need $35,000 less dollars to retire. Even for me, who's pretty frugal and has a pretty well-paying job, that's years of savings. To save $335,000, I estimate it would probably take me around at least 7 years. For most people, that would be a lot longer. In fact, how long would it take for you? Let me know in the comments how long it would take to save $335,000. My guess is at least a decade. And if you're a viewer of this channel, you're probably a better saver than most. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the average American household only saves $6,000 a year. Even assuming they put every cent of that into an investment portfolio returning 7% per year, that would still take 24 years of saving to have $335,000. So cutting out a morning coffee or a $5.25 expense on every weekday for 40 years would give you 24 years of savings of an American family. Put another way, cut out coffee for 40 years and you could retire 24 years sooner.
Now, most people don't have 64-year careers. If you have to work for that 40 years, you're probably not following some of the advice I share on this YouTube channel. Still, I wanted to demonstrate the power of cutting out a small expense over the course of your lifetime. Little expenses add up to a lot. We're talking about just one minor purchase that could eat up decades of savings. These small financial decisions make an insane difference on when you can reach financial independence. One last thing. See, these small purchases only add up to as much as they do because of investing. Investing enables me to retire years earlier than I could otherwise, all with money I never had to earn in the first place. To see what I'm talking about, you need to watch this video right here.